I go home that night. We put the kids to bed. It's around 9 o'clock at night, and my wife and I are in bed, and I say, "You'll never guess what kind of conversation I had with so-and-so today." And I was right. She would never guess.
Welcome to the Connection Codes podcast, where we help you go from disconnection and confusion to clarity, confidence, and connection. Whether it's in your marriage, your business, parenting, or just figuring out what's going on inside of you, we're here to help make emotions feel less overwhelming and way more useful. I'm your host, Tara Wages, mom of 4, CEO, speaker, and a big believer that emotions are not a problem to fix, but a tool to master. The Connection Codes are tools created by marriage and family therapist Dr. Glenn Hill and his incredible wife, Phyllis. They've helped thousands of people, just like you, experience real transformation. Let's get into it. Last summer, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis attended a retreat for creators in the marriage industry. The host, Dan Purcell, became an instant friend, and we are so glad to have him on today's podcast. He is a marriage and intimacy coach, and he's the creator of the Intimately Us app. And his story of how he got into this work is honestly one of the most real, vulnerable things I have heard in a while. Dan shares about a conversation he had with a friend years ago, and one of those conversations that you walk away from and nothing is quite the same after. It led to a 5-hour midnight talk with his wife that cracked something open in their marriage. It also led to one of the most spectacular backfires I've ever heard, involving a book, a nightstand, and the phrase, "I need you to get on my level." If you've ever tried to fix your spouse, or if you felt like you were the one doing all the work and they weren't keeping up, or if intimacy in your marriage feels stuck and you're not sure why, this episode is going to give you a lot to sit with. Dan gets into desire, discrepancy, what's really underneath the masks that we wear, and the belief that he discovered in himself that was sabotaging everything without him even knowing it. Let's dive in. Hi there, friends. Before we dive in, we want to let you know something important. While this podcast does feature a marriage and family therapist, we are not your therapist. This is a space for informational and educational purposes only. We're here to have a deep conversation over coffee. If you find yourself feeling stuck or overwhelmed, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted therapist, counselor, coach in your area who can give you personalized support you deserve. Because let's be real, life is way too hard to go at it alone, and your emotions are way too valuable to ignore. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get to the good stuff.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. Well, oh my goodness, we are so excited to have actually a dear friend on our podcast today. And Dan, we'll just let you tell us who in the world you are. But welcome, Dan Purcell from Utah is on air with us today. So hi, Dan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. What an honor. I'm so happy to be here with you.
It's so fun. So tell us, even just your connection codes, how did you find us? Tell us how you found us.
So I put on marriage retreats, and one year we had some guests come, and towards the end of the retreat, they shared with me a little bit about what they learned from you. And it was my first time hearing about the connection codes. And it's like, oh yeah, that's intuitive. It makes a lot of sense. And but I didn't really connect it with you two yet. I just heard the concept. And I kind of felt like it was something my wife and I do intuitively anyway, but it made a lot of sense. So I started sharing it, at least the concept of how we connect through emotions. And, we have the basic emotions. I didn't have it nailed down to the 8 like you do in your wheel at the time. Like, this is a good practice for couples to kind of establish more communicative, emotional level of communication. And then when a few months later, I came across your work, which formalized everything, and I dove in, and I love what you've produced. So that's how I first heard about you. And then I reached out to you. I think you've been a guest on my podcast twice, and we've connected it through, because we're in a lot of the same circles, and we got to spend some time together in Salt Lake City this summer, and here we are. So it's been nice to be here.
For our audience, I do have to share, and I've shared this with you because we spent a bit of time together. Because you say it's intuitive, which is so annoying for me to hear couples like you do these things intuitively, because we didn't. We missed on this for decades, and I'm happy for you. I do feel joy in that, but it does, because my experience, I've been in this field for a good while, is that most people don't do it. And I'm you with you, whether or not it's intuitive, but most couples get lost from each other like we did pretty early on and stay lost for who knows how long, months, years. For us, it was decades. We're the slow kids in the group. But I agree with you that it's supposed to be intuitive. It's actually inside of us. We're born this way, being authentic, being vulnerable, connecting because we're authentic and vulnerable. But man, most of us miss on that horribly. Yeah. So I celebrate that you and your wife did not miss as badly as.
I should clarify. The concept was very intuitive. And it's a way my wife and I communicate, but I don't think it's easy, because we'll use the word vulnerable, right? This push to be open, to be real, to take off the mask, and to not try to hide anything with our spouse is not always easy, because our egos like to get in the way.
But it's so strange because, we have 12 grandchildren. Our two youngest are just turned 2 years old each, and they don't have any masks. And they when they poop in their pants, they just kind of let us know that, yeah, they have to poop. And it's just so, of course, I'm a student of human behavior. It's like, what happens for us where we're born so vulnerable? We're born so authentic, transparent, et cetera, and then somewhere along the way we get lost. And you, I think, have heard me share that, my parents said to me, you stop your crying or I'll give you something to cry about. So I was trained, actively trained. And I'm not mad at my parents. I think they were doing what they thought was good and right and helpful, which it was not. But I remember receiving that message early on, probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe even earlier than that. So we just somehow seem to all get trained to not to have the mask, to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's natural to have a mask or to develop. That's part of our human development as it increases from adults. Yeah.
It becomes a protection. My dream is that we don't need protection because we're not being attacked. And that would be pretty amazing. And, for us, of course, we miss so badly for so long and have so many wounds in our history, trauma, that we still are affected by that. But in our best moments, we just did about a 5-6 week European tour, and we didn't get lost from each other the whole trip.
That's
our meaning that we processed through in 20 to 30 seconds, which blows my mind that that's even possible. But so I just wonder, and I have no idea, we're in our 60s, but I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where we just don't have masks anymore with each other. We feel safe with each other all the time. And that's happening more and more for us, but we still struggle with that. So,
well, I struggle with masks too. And that maybe this will lead into more of our discussion today, right? Like, I was having a conversation yesterday with my team, and I have a team member who is very honest with me. He's like, Dan, do you know that I can tell when your mask is on? I'm like, really? You can tell? Like, I don't have a mask. It's like, yes, your tone of voice changes. And then you instantly you're no longer trustworthy when you have that mask. I'm grateful for this feedback, right? And I'm like, oh, I do that. But sometimes I don't see myself doing that because, again, talk about intuition, right? I'm so intuitive in certain settings. It is because I'm scared. It's because I'm afraid. I'm afraid if I'll say the right thing or the wrong things, or I'll guide the conversation in a certain way. Or my weapon of choice is to sound smart. Because if I can sound smart, even though I don't know what I'm actually really saying, but I sound smart, right? At least it gives me a little bit of protection. But that's a form of masking. So, and I think people do this in their marriages all the time too. And was it last Friday or 2 Fridays ago? My wife and I went on a getaway, just the two of us.
Wow.
And in one day, we went through the entire range. Like we had some great moments, and then moments where we're at each other, not like angry like outbursts, but like where I'm just the like living a fear moment to like a joyful moment, and then maybe feeling hurt or sad one moment, and then like a little bit of shame, and then back to joy, and then like just by observing in one day, like I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we went to the beach with our youngest daughter, her husband, and then their son, who is our youngest grandchild, Malachi, who just turned 2 last week. And I took him out into the ocean water for the first time ever. And that little guy was scared to death. And he ends up crawling basically on top of my head because he's not going to get anywhere near this water. But he did not hide his fear. It was very clear, and he doesn't speak English yet, but I knew what was happening for him. There was no hesitation. He wasn't trying to, what'd you call it? Talk smart or what'd you say?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't trying to impress me. It's just like, I'm not touching that water. But he showed it to me. He was authentic. He was vulnerable. He was transparent, 100%. I did not wonder what's happening with Malachi. I can't tell. Nope. It was, even though he doesn't speak English, it was totally clear what was happening for him. And that's our dream, is that everybody's able to live that way. We call them stunt doubles. There are stunt double moments. If you're at a wedding or a funeral, you kind of have to present a certain way. But in our relationships of depth, that we're able to just be our real selves.
So, Dan, I know you work with couples, and one of the, I don't know if I should say your favorite topic, but it's to really talk about sexuality and that is one of those topics I think that often we just put a mask on and disassociate and, have so much going on there that we don't talk about. We don't know how to talk about. We don't know how to navigate. So give us a little bit of your just wisdom in that and how you work with couples and just even approach that.
Yeah, but I'd also love to hear, because I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about that, how you ended up in that space, what pulled you to that.
Right. If you were to tell me a few years ago that I'd be on a podcast talking to you two about sex, I would have never believed you, because that is as opposite from my past life as I could imagine. So this happened 8 years ago. At that point, my wife and I had been married 13 years. We've had I'd say a good marriage. We're good friends. We go on dates as much as we can. We had young kids. I've been an entrepreneur my whole career, so we've got that added burden. My wife is homeschooling. So we're kind of in this, we're very busy. We got a lot of pressure, a lot of things pulling on. But through it all, I still felt like we're good friends. And then I had a conversation with a friend that after one day this afternoon, and this friend opened up to me about his sex life. And this isn't like bro talk, like locker room talk. It was like it was very sincere and very different. He was talking about how when he and his wife really started to focus on their sexual relationship, everything else in his life started to improve. Like the way he communicates with his wife improved, the way they raised their kids together improved. In his job, his income increased. Like it's like this is it. This is like the magic formula for happiness, is figuring out sex. And there was a lot more to that conversation. I learned that he and his wife have a very adventurous sex life, and I was blushing the whole time. I think the best emotion to describe it would be morbid curiosity. It's like oh, gross. Wait, tell me more. No, don't tell me, but tell me a little bit. You get the feeling. It's like, really? You do that? Really? People do that? And I didn't know good people could have so much fun in the bedroom or out of the bedroom for this case, right? And because my upbringing is very conservative upbringing. We didn't talk about sex much at all in the home. If we did, it was the thou shalt not conversation. And just the general association, like sexual jokes aren't appropriate. TV scenes that depict, explicit sexuality are to be avoided. And I'm grateful for those protections that were offered me in my adolescence. But it carried into my marriage an anxiety about sex, and my wife too. But we didn't know it because we're just swimming in the water. You don't know you're wet. So I always associated anything very explicitly sexual with Las Vegas billboards, like something kind of distasteful. So even in our own marriage, I think we had a decent sexual relationship, but it wasn't deep. It wasn't creative. It wasn't a place for us to really belong to each other or explore. And here I am with a man who's experiencing that in his own marriage. And it was like, wait a minute here. Maybe there's some good to this. Maybe it's worth pursuing, but I'm so scared to pursue it because if I do, what if I come across something that's distasteful, or I don't want to fall into a trap of, because, the narrative is pornography addiction. I don't want to become a porn addict, or like, where is the line? Like, because I was so scared that I lived my life as far away from the line as possible. And that's the way I kind of viewed things. So my internal world is upside down. I don't know what to do, what's right, because I really, really want what my friend has. But the path there seemed very, very scary and very opposite of the way I had been living my life to that point. So I go home that night. We put the kids to bed. It's around 9:00 at night, and my wife and I are in bed, and I say, "You'll never guess what kind of conversation I had with so-and-so today." And I was right. She would never guess. So I very gingerly, because I'm really nervous, right? Very anxious. I kind of told her about the conversation, kind of how it went. And I decided I'm not going to hold anything back. And I just let it all out. Like, this is what I think. Really confused about this. I don't know what you think, but what do you think? I really want to know what you think. And then that turned into how's our sexual relationship? Like, what is your experience having sex with me like? I never asked you that question before. Do you like it? Or are you secretly wishing it was different and you've never told me? Like, I had all these questions. It was a 5-hour, wonderful, deep conversation. And so we're 2 a.m. We're about finishing. We're kind of tired. But it was probably our most vulnerable conversation on topic of sex in our marriage to that point. And it unlocked something in our own marriage. And we both concluded we need to learn more about this, but let's do it together. So we started reading books together, podcasts, found anything we can to get our hands on. And within a few months, we started communicating better. We start raising our kids better together. Income improves. The sky is bluer, the grass is greener. We got big smiles on our faces all the time. Just our life. Our marriage went from where it was just this whole new level. And that change was so profound for me that I wanted to do something. I wanted to share what I was learning with more people. It just had such a profound impact on me. It led to a career change, and now this is what I get to do full time.
Wow.
Okay, some questions. Number one, how long your friend that you talked to, how long have you been married?
Probably a few years more than I had at that point.
Okay. And then, because 99.100% of people of our community want to be able to do that with their partners, whether male or female. If I heard you right, you were pretty flooded with fear about, broaching this topic, on that level, especially with your wife. How did you do that?
Great question, Glenn. And I've thought about that often because, and the reason why it's such a great question is I coach couples and I bring them to that same decision point. And some of them take that leap and some of them don't. But I think it's the same skill for anything worth pursuing in life. Can you imagine being the first person who's determined to climb Mount Everest? Sir Hillary, I think was his name. Or to be the chief scientist, first to build a rocket to go to the moon, or the first astronauts, right? There's an incredible amount of risk and courage required, I think, in these key decision points. But I think ultimately for me, it was an act of integrity. I decided within me that I no longer wanted to live the way I was living in the marriage. I wanted what my friend had. And in order for me to do that, it meant for me to hold on to my integrity.
Yeah.
I had to be more honest with myself.
Yeah.
What I really want is this, and this is more important. Therefore, like really holding on to that, I think that became the source of the courage. I heard a great quote. I forgot who said this, but courage and confidence look the same. It's just that confidence feels good.
Hmm.
Courage never feels good. So, but yeah, I think it doesn't feel good. But I think you hold on to your integrity. This matters more to me.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I've just never met the couple who on their wedding day didn't want that.
Right. Well, I think we all want that.
Right. I just never heard that. So, and yet I would suggest, based on a bit of experience, that a massive majority, I'm not talking 51%, I think we're into the 90 percentile of people don't have that. And to get them to, whatever you want to call it, to jump, to try to, do what you did, which turned into 5 hours. And it's spectacular. The vast majority of people, and I would say predominantly men, are thinking, what? That would never work. That would be a 3-minute conversation with my wife, and she would end up, storming out of the room, telling me I'm a pervert, screaming and, calling the pastor or something. I really do. I just admire that courage. It's just phenomenal. And I just want to take a blood draw and form a vaccine and give it to everybody. It's, again, especially men, to be able to do that and say, dude, just go ahead and talk to her. It's already happening inside of you. You have this craving, and she probably does too. And to get people to be able to convey authentically at the core what's happening.
Just be careful you don't go putting me on a pedestal, though, because I've made plenty of other mistakes.
I get that. Yeah, but that was a pivotal moment for you. And most people don't do that pivotal. That's a hard word. Pivotal.
Make that pivotal step, I guess. It was a pivotal moment. And we all had many others since. That's like an example of one of them.
I think what really stands out to me is the fact that your friend had this one conversation with you that was like life-changing on so many levels, to the point where you changed your career. I just think we underestimate vulnerable conversations with our friends. And, I don't know if I would be curious to talk to that friend, like to say, because I would think it took a tremendous amount of courage for him to be that vulnerable with you, because he was risking judgment on a big time level, where you could have pointed all the fingers and been like, oh, I'm concerned for your, everything. Like, this sounds so wrong. And so he had the courage. But I mean, that's amazing to me that one courageous person sharing his vulnerable story changed your life. And now thousands of people's marriages have been changed through what you do now, Dan. So it's like, wow. That's such to me, that in this moment, takeaway of what conversations are we not having because we don't step forward into the courage and to just be that vulnerable. I think for many of us, we have fear of judgment, and maybe it's not just fear of judgment. I'm not sure what happens to people that we don't just have those more vulnerable conversations with each other. So, but
Okay. Well, now I'm down to curiosity. What was your next conversation with that friend like?
A few months later is like, things are better. Things are great. I don't think it was as, I don't know if he knows how profound it was.
I was what ask you, have you?
Yeah, I have. It once many times.
so in all the work that you've been doing, for the past 8 years, right? Like, kind of give us some of the gold nuggets of what you.
Sure. What emerged from that conversation was like, well, I want to share this with the world, but I'm not a good public speaker. I don't know how to write, but I do know how to code because of my background was in software development. And I know how to make an app. So I made an app. That was my medium of sharing my message with the world. And I thought it'd be so fun if I could take all these lessons and put them more in like a game. So it is a sexy bedroom game app that's not crass, not raunchy, but also not lame. It's a really good one. It's called Intimately Us. And the premise is intimacy is the foundation for great sex. And it has several sections of the app. And I can go into this more depth if you want to. I don't know. But generally speaking, there's several sections. One is full of fun bedroom games for you and your spouse to do. So this is like, it's like a date night. Like we want to have some sexy time together. It puts more play into foreplay, if you can think of it that way. One is called Battle Strip. It's a stripping game based on Battleship, the old classic game. You have your phone, she has her phone, you put in like what clothing you're wearing and you kind of arrange it on the board, but they don't see each other as yet, right? And then you try to sync each other's, pants or whatever. And it's a stripping game. That's like an example of one of like 10 different of those types of games that we have in the app.
Wow. I love that. And I actually do want to get a little bit more, because here's the thing. I would say that often we go into this conversation saying, yes, I want something different. I want more, but I don't even know where to start. I'm not creative. I don't have any ideas. I'm afraid to go into, the dark web to find ideas, because you don't know what all you find. So I just think it's incredible that you took your first career skills and then into this. Okay, how can we do this? And how can we create something? Because that just sounds phenomenal to me. Like, even the fact, like, it's blowing my mind that you took the old Battleship game and was like, okay, how can I make this work in a really fun way? And I think that's what often, and what this is like. You guys have a bunch of kids. Like, you just get bogged down in life with children, with career, with a house that you're trying to maintain, with a car you're trying to maintain. Like, the list is so long that then at the end of the day, or any time, it doesn't have to be at the end of the day, you kind of want to connect sexually with your spouse. And it's like, I don't have any energy. Like, yes, I want to be sexual with you, but to make it adventuresome, And so I feel like what you're saying is you created something that doesn't require more brain space. It's like walking in and going, okay, let's pick a game. And so that is just phenomenal to me. So give us a little bit more. Tell us a little more about what to expect with your app.
There's a daily intimacy challenge. Premise is little tiny acts done consistently are going to make a far bigger impact on your marriage than big grandiose things. If you can keep the pilot light lit or the stove simmering, then you can go from there to, okay, let's go something a little more explicitly sexual together, a lot more easier. So every day the app is going to give you a challenge. It takes 5 minutes or less to do. And some of them are really simple. Some of them are more romantic. Some are going to be more explicitly sexual. But things like, can you write on a Post-it, like something like this, and put it on the bathroom mirror, like a little note to your wife? Or can you get a dry erase marker, write something on the rear view mirror of his car, like a little message. There's, invite your spouse to dance today. Bring home flowers. Those are generic things, but there's also more specific ones. So there's creative. There's hundreds and hundreds of ideas in there that you'll be offered one a day. And you complete those. You can build up a streak, things like that.
Yeah.
We also have a section in the app with hundreds of in-depth how-to articles. And this has been something that was helpful for my wife and I is, okay, we want to learn how to do certain XYZ in bed, but because we're curious about it, but the actual hows, like no one's talking about this. It doesn't feel like safe to like Google these things really. Like, how can we get a good resource that's helpful? So we spent a lot of time creating these really specific articles, but they're always going to be in the context of marriage, and it's always going to be, they're not crass, they're not going to be raunchy, but they're not pornographic, but they're going to be very specific also. So helpful. That there's a whole section in the app like with those things.
What else?
There's an intimacy calendar where you can share. It's private to you too. Like we went on date night, you can record those memories. If you want to record when you've had sex, you can record. It even has a menstrual tracker built into that too. So that's helpful for couples that want to plan together and kind of talk about scheduling things if that's important to them.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's amazing.
so then in meeting, that's amazing that you've spent a lot of time, and you do spend a lot of time, right, with this app. But I know you also work with couples. So what are some of the things that you see that commonly keeps couples from just the richness of their intimate relationship?
Yeah, let me answer that by kind of creating a bridge from what led me to that point, if that's okay. So I created this app, ironically, 9 months later. It was from conception to launch, right? And then I started getting a lot of attention from the app. And then I think my wife and I entered a new phase in our sexual relationship. And that was a phase of big desire discrepancy. Like, because I'm immersed in this every day. I'm starting to make that career pivot. Now, I get paid to learn about sex all day. Like, it's on my mind all the time. And guess what I want to do? I'm with her. And she's like, been putting on the brakes quite a bit. Like, whoa, slow down, mister. Right? So there's a big disconnect in our marriage. It's like that, so they say solutions give birth to new problems. That was us in our marriage. Like, solving one problem gave birth to the new problem. It's like an old video game. You solve one level, you defeat that boss. Now you're giving your next level, right? So this was our next level for us. Was like we had desire discrepancy. I want all the time. She didn't. And I'm not saying who is right or wrong, but here's the key. I'll tell a story, but I'll try to keep it short. To fix the problem of desire discrepancy in our marriage, I thought at the time that only if my wife would just embrace her sexuality more, spend a little more time reading like I was, then things would get better. So there was a particular book that I had read that I thought was fantastic, all on female sexuality and how to kind of get more comfortable with yourself as a woman, embrace yourself, and really step into your full divine femininity also in the sexual sense. It was really well written, kind of dense because it has a lot of practice, like a lot of homework, a lot of exercises to do. And I just thought, if only Emily would just read this book and do the exercises, it would solve all of our marriage problems. Because we didn't fight about anything in our marriage except for sex. That was like the one thing, right? Like, if only she could solve this, it would be great. So I got the book, I read it through, I underlined, highlighted, notes in the margin, doggy-eared, post-it notes, this is what you need to do, Emily. This is what you got to do. Pay attention to this part. And I had put it on the nightstand on her side, and it didn't move for a week. And I was getting impatient. So I picked up the book, put it on the pillow, and by night it was back on the nightstand. And I don't think she's even besides moving it to the nightstand, I don't think she's ever touched it. So I was getting a little frustrated. So I confronted her and said, hey, you need to read this book, right? We have problems in our marriage. If only you just read this, it would solve all of our sexual problems. Hey, I really think you gotta do this. I need you to get to the level that I'm at, was basically what I was communicating. As you can tell, she didn't take that very well.
Smells like snow.
But she had a great excuse. Like, Daniel, how in the world do you expect me to sit and read a book when I have 6 kids? I'm homeschooling. I'm doing most of the meal prep as a family. Like, showering for me is a luxury. I could even use the bathroom without getting a knock on the door, little fingers under the door, trying to get mom's attention. Like, how in the world do you expect me to sit and read this book? I'm like, she has a really good point. So I said, okay, well, I can negotiate here. How about I take over all meal prep, planning, cooking, everything, clean up for 2 weeks, and that will free. In exchange, that'll give you some time to, go to the bedroom, lock the door, maybe draw a nice bubble bath, relax, and then read the book and do the exercises that the book recommends. See, and that will help solve our problems with our sexual problems in our marriage. And so she reluctantly went along with the plan because the idea of having someone else do all the meal prep probably sounded really good to her at the time. But another point that colors the story is meal prep. When we had dinner was also a point of contention because dinner would often be 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. And by the time dinner's done and cleaned up and the kids are in bed, we didn't have time together anymore. And I really wanted dinner earlier. So guess for those 2 weeks, I got dinner done by 5:30. But I let her know it. I work full time out of the house and I can still manage to get dinner done on time. While you're home with the kids all day, how come you can't get dinner done on time? Why don't you just learn a few lessons from me and how I think through things, right? Okay, so now my wife in the bedroom, while I'm out clunking pots making dinner, she's supposedly reading this book. How do you think she feels?
It doesn't sound great, so.
Well, is she like, I want to embrace my sexuality?
So don't think.
Not at all. It's because, so this 2-week experiment backfired and it set us back even further.
Yeah.
Right? Now, and this is where I was like, okay, this is my next level. There's so much here that I don't understand that I need to learn. Looking back, what was wrong is you can't solve any problem at the same level of thinking that was used to create that problem. You have to gain more intelligence. You have to raise your level of thinking to solve the problem. Because if you try to solve it at the same level, you can't. It's in systems theory, you brought this up too. First order change, second order change. It requires a second order change, which in layman's terms, to me, it means like instead of redecorating the kitchen, it's remodeling the kitchen. You gotta redo the way you even fundamentally understand the problem. So it wasn't until I understood that the fundamental reason for our sexual desire discrepancy at that point in our marriage, it wasn't kids, it wasn't work, it wasn't homeschool, it wasn't those things. It was because secretly I viewed myself as superior to my wife. I thought I was better than her. And I believed it. And I thought if only she'd catch up to my level. But the fallacy in that is, let's say, hypothetically, she did catch up to my level. I'd be threatened by that because I need to be superior to my wife, right? At that level of thinking. Then I'd level up. Then she knows intuitively, like, why even bother? Because even if I push myself, it'll never be good enough. It'll never be good enough for him. So that level of thinking, which I wasn't very clear on at the time, that was a reason for a sexual desire discrepancy.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that's so fascinating because I feel like you've just now opened up a really huge topic that we could talk about for hours because it is, man, I just want to rehear what you just said in a way. Like the fact that you were super solution oriented. It's real simple, babe. I'll take over dinner. You read the book. Then you're going to desire me on an equal level. Like you were very solution oriented in the logistics.
Yeah.
And
it was very like at that level of thinking, it seemed like a great idea. What wife wouldn't want her husband to take over more household responsibilities when she feels overwhelmed, right? So at that level of thinking, it felt like it was a good thing to do.
But what's interesting is, and nowhere in there did I hear what was happening for her, and then what was her real need. And it sounded very what's the word? Transactional.
Yeah.
Dan does dinner for 2 weeks. That's very transactional. Instead of, man, I see a real need here and I'm really good at this, so I'm going to just start doing this. Like, there's no transaction, but there's more of of course, if it's something I'm better at doing, or that just is a great need, like, there's this, it seems like the miss was in that, logistical solution oriented transaction, which, I think that immediately it's like, oh, my body wouldn't show up, like there's just like immediate, and it does sound familiar. Like, I think in our early years, Glenn would find books, like, if you just read this book, and that alone was like, I will not read that book.
Yeah.
And,
I say, Dan, you're smarter than me, because I did that twice.
you don't.
10 times. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And it didn't work any of the times.
And I mean, that was in a time in our early marriage where I didn't know what was happening for me. I mean, I had no voice to say. I didn't know what I needed. Like, there was no communication about what was really happening.
Yeah.
So, before we run out of time, just give us a little bit of, okay, so that didn't work.
Right.
So what was the next step for you guys?
When I realized, okay, there's a lot more to sex than just like how to have an orgasm and how to have fun and how to play. Like, those are very, very important elements. But there's a much deeper element of the whole marriage dynamic and looking at it as a system. So I started really studying that and understanding that better. I even got a little bit of help. I found a fantastic coach that kind of helped me see something in me that I was just missing. It raised my level of intelligence so I could see it from a different vantage point. Like, you're right. I do this all the time. I realize I do this, right? And kind of, it's like as if I'm saying, well, when you put it that way, it makes perfect sense why things are the way they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went back to school, getting the training and getting the understanding. I'm practicing, even just really implementing these things in my own marriage, and then feeling that's our next level, like new shifts. There's new depth with my wife and I, like just the level at what we can really be together is so different than what was a year ago, 5 years ago, especially even 10 years ago. And that motivation is really strong. So now I coach. I want to help couples experience and get to their next level. And that's kind of what I'm the like you too. Like, when you can wake up and go to work and it's the thing you're really passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. This is like, it's just amazing. So that's fun. And I get to see miracles every day. I get to see couples make very courageous, great decisions and moves. And it just inspires me of the goodness in people differently now. Like, there's a person behind every behavior. There's a person behind every thing, right? Like, there's goodness within.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of hope for humanity for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Dan. Okay, so as you know, we love asking our guests to do the core emotion wheel, which is a tool that has really changed how we communicate with each other and how we are able to be transparent in those vulnerable conversations where we can actually, through the expressing the core level of what's happening, that also leads us to figuring out what do we need and to be able to express what we need. So we talked about this before the show. I would love for you to do the core emotion wheel now as we kind of get to the end of our podcast.
Okay, great. I'm going to go. So fear would be like what we talked about. We already talked about this today. It's the idea of like, can I really take off the mask and show a side of myself? There's a lot of fear there. There's anger in the stories because I wasn't getting what I wanted. And anger was also used as a tool to mask my hurt. So the next emotion, but also anger was also used as a tool to try to pressure and get what I wanted out of someone else. There's sadness in that I wish I knew then what I know now. So there's that sense of loss. Yeah. There is loneliness. There's loneliness in risk. There's loneliness in taking the mask off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So rather, you risk being alone in it. And sometimes when you are alone, you do feel lonely as a result of that. So I feel that too.
Fun.
Guilt. There's just even my story of trying to get my wife to read the book. There's guilt in that one, right? Like looking back, like I feel really guilty for thinking I was superior to my wife.
Yeah.
I was the one that figured it out. She didn't. Shame. There's this is unrelated to what we talked about, but part of my work puts me in positions where I feel a lot of shame. Like someone asked me yesterday, "Hey, what do you do for work?" So what I want to say is I help Christian couples improve sex in their marriage. But I don't know how that's going to be received. So I think that ties into a few other emotions too, but shame for sure. There's shame in
Wow.
it's okay to talk about sex, and that to advertise that I think sex is a great thing and more couples should have more of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know what others will think.
Wow.
There's shame in that.
Wow.
And then lastly, joy. I feel a lot of joy in my marriage. I feel a lot of joy in my work. I feel a lot of joy today. But I get to be here with you too. And that's the emotion I want to end on because joy feels really good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And, I already am like, oh gosh, we got to get you back. We got to kind of go a little further in what you do, but make sure that we have the information so we can put it in the show notes for the app that we talked today. Can you repeat what the app is called?
Yeah. In fact, I'll take it one step further, Glenn and Phyllis. I have a gift for your listeners.
Oh, I love that.
If you'll go to getyourmarriageon.com/connection-codes, so it's only for your listeners, I've prepared a few things for you. First is I'll give you the link to the Intimately Us app, which we talked about, and a link to a second app, which we haven't talked about yet. It's the ultimate sexting app.
Wow.
But in addition, I'll also give you a few guides. One is called 100 Creative Ways to Initiate Sex. And I also have 101 creative ways to have sex. So these are like creative ideas to introduce in the bedroom for fun. And then I also have the last one's called the Jumpstart Guide. And this is like my favorite books, my favorite articles, podcasts, frameworks to think about things about all things sex. And it's getyourmarriageon.com/connection-code.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for thinking through all of that, because I know for our listeners, they're going to be asking a million questions. And it's such a blessing to just because you've done the work, right? You've kind of been pioneering this for years now. So thank you, friend. Thank you for joining us today. And we do all of this because
you need this.
You deserve this.
So
let's do this.
Wow. Okay, friends, that conversation with Dan is something that I will definitely be thinking about. There was a moment when he said that you can't solve any of the problems at the same level of thinking that was used to create it. I'm really going to think about that. That's deep. That's good. Because how often do we try the same approaches, the same conversations, the same fixes, and wonder if anything is going to change? What I love about Dan's story is that it started with someone else's courage, a friend who was willing to be vulnerable first. And that one conversation rippled into Dan's marriage, his career, and now thousands of couples that he has helped. And that's what I believe here at the Connection Codes, that when one person gets brave enough to take off the mask, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. If this conversation stirred something in you, don't let it just fade. Sit with it and maybe have a conversation that you've been avoiding. If you want to check out Dan's resources, there'll be a link in the show notes. He has his app and some free guides. You can also go to getyourmarriageon.com/connections-codes, and there'll be a link that you can access some of his free resources. But if also you're just like, I need to get started in learning how to process my emotions. I've heard the core emotion wheel. I haven't downloaded it yet, and I need some of this help. Go to the link in our show notes and get the core emotion wheel. That is our simple tool to help you navigate those difficult conversations, because you're able to approach the problem from a different skill set. And that is what we are all about here at the Connection Codes. We are so glad that you are here, that you show up every single week. And I am honored to get to do this journey with you. So if you have any questions, need support, do not hesitate to reach out, and let's do this.